Hi, in this Gaussian elimination video, I'm going to show you how to use matrices and Gauss-Jordan form or reduced row echelon form to get the answer that you're looking for at that point of intersection. So the very first thing is you have to write your augmented matrix down, which means you're writing every coefficient down. Okay? So you have 1x, 1y, 1z equals -2. Then we have -1x, -3y, -2z equals 2. 2x minus 2y plus 5z equals -14. Okay? Now when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking about row 1, row 2, row 3. Okay? And the goal for all Gaussian elimination is to make it 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, and with all of your numbers on the right hand side. Okay, so your goal is to get ones down the diagonal and zeros both below and above. So for our good luck, we already have a 1 in our top left spot. Now we just need to work down the matrix. So our next goal is going to be to get 0. Okay, so I'm going to name this, row 1, row 2, and row 3. Now the thing about matrices is that instead of making new rows, you're replacing old ones. So in this case, I'm going to do row 1 plus row 2, and I'm going to replace row 2. Okay, and the goal of that is to add them together so that I get this 0 in the second row, first column location. Okay. Now, because I'm working on a 0, you can actually do both at the same time. So I know that if I do -2 times row 1 plus row 3, I can get a 0 in that bottom left corner as well. So I'm going to do both of those operations. So 1 minus 1. So first, our first row is not getting replaced at all. So I have 1, -1, 1 and -3. 1, -2, -2, and 2. Okay. And then I'm going to do -2 row 1 plus row 3. So -2 plus 2, -2 and -2, -2 and 5, and then I have 4 and -14. Okay. So now my next job is going to be to get that 1 in that middle location. Okay, we're always going to do the 1s first and then the 0s in each column. So column 1, column 2, column 3. And you're using that number 1 in order to get those other 0s. Okay? So now, if I want a number 1 in that location, one thing I can do is make my second row half as big. Okay? So next, I'm going to take, and I have a -2 on there, so I'm going to take a -1/2, row 2, to replace row 2. So then I will get -1, 1, 1, -2, 0, 1, 1/2, and 0, and 0, -4, 3, and -10. Okay. So now I'm going to use that 1 that I just solved for right here to get rid of the numbers above and below it. So one thing I can do is -1 row 2 plus row 1 to replace row 1. That way I get a 0 there. And another thing I can do is 4 row 2 plus row 3 to replace row 3 to get a 0 there, right? And that's our next goal here. So I know that my middle row is not changing, but I have a -1, so I'm doing top minus bottom basically. So 1 minus 1 is 0. 1 minus 1/2 is 1/2. -2 minus 0 is -2. Okay. And now I need to do 4 row 2 plus row 3. So 4 minus 4 is 0. 4 times 1/2 is 2. Plus 3 is 5. And I get negative 10. Right, 0 plus negative 10, negative 10. Okay. Now I'm on to the third column. So now the third column, again, the first thing I need to do is get that 1. So I have 1/5, row 3, to replace row 3. Okay. So then I would have 1, 0, 1/2, negative 2, 0, 1, 1/2, 0. And now, because this is the only row I'm changing, I'm dividing by 5. I get a negative 2. So already, if you think about what it means in terms of an equation, I have 1z equals negative 2. Okay. Now, for both the last two zeros, we're doing the same thing. So negative 1/2, row 3 plus row 2. And then I'm also going to do negative 1/2, row 3 plus row 1. Right? You're always replacing the one that you want to change. Okay? So I'm going to do each of those, and I'm going to write my answer. So I had negative 2 here, and then I had 1/2 of negative 2 is negative 1/2 of negative 2 is a positive 1. Negative 1/2, again, a positive 1, and then I have plus negative 2 gives me a negative 1. Okay. So what this tells me here is that I'm ready for my final answer. If you think about it in terms of an equation, this means 1x equals this, 1y equals this, 1z equals this. Okay. So in our ordered triple, we have negative 1, 1, and negative 2. If you have any questions on it, please feel free to email me.